Yo, Darious Britt here, and today we are breaking down Ex Machina. It's a sci-fi drama, kind of a thriller, written and directed by Alex Garland. Kind of hard to believe, but this was his directorial debut. He was also the screenwriter for 28 Days Later, Sunshine, Dread. If you have not seen it yet, you should check that out before you watch this for obvious reasons. I will be using the 3-act structure to break this film down, so if you are not familiar with that, then I'll leave a link in the description section to a video on that. Total runtime is 1 hour and 48 minutes. Let's get into it.
Inciting incident. Caleb wins a competition to spend a week with the CEO of Blue Book. For the rest of Act 1, we meet Nathan, the CEO. Caleb gets settled in. Things get awkward. First plot point.
Hello.
Hi.
Caleb meets Ava, and of course, he's fascinated by her, and now the Turing test can begin. Act 2, building relationships and leaving clues. In Act 2, we jump back and forth between Caleb testing Ava, Caleb debriefing his results with Nathan, and Caleb and Ava developing a romantic connection as we leave breadcrumbs leading up to the revelation of Nathan's big secret. Revelation. Act 2 ends with a big revelation. Caleb discovers that Nathan's been interacting with previous android models in disturbing ways. Kyoko also reveals that she's an android.
Basically, he was making sex dolls. You.
Paranoia. Nathan cuts into his arm in an attempt to reassure himself of his humanity. This is sort of kind of like a Dark Knight moment because it's his lowest point. I mean, he's losing it. He's clearly losing it. Second plot point.
We're getting out of here tonight.
How?
I get Nathan blind drunk.
Caleb explains his plan to break Ava out of the facility. Act 3, save Ava. Caleb launches his plan, but it fails. Nathan's not interested in drinking. Act 3, twist.
Or whether she's pretending to like you.
Caleb learns that he was the real test. The whole plan was to see if Ava could manipulate Caleb into thinking that she loved him in order for him to help her escape, which he did.
Hate to say it, bro, but you're kind of a sucker.
Climax. Ava escapes during the power outage. Nathan tries to stop her from leaving, but gets himself stabbed to death. Ava repairs herself with parts from earlier android models, taking on the full appearance of a human woman. Resolution. Ava abandons Caleb, leaving him inside of the lockdown facility. It's safe to assume that, he's probably gonna die. And then Ava wanders the world with childlike amusement. What I like. I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of talking in this movie. It's pretty much all talking and a couple of stab wounds. But it holds your attention because there is so much tension in the film. There's a lot of suspicion, and you never quite know who to trust.
Nathan on the surface seems like a pretty cool boss that you can go out and have a couple of beers with, but the guy is really sketchy and he hangs out in dark places. You can't trust a guy who lurks in dark places. We all learned that right around the time when we learned to look both ways before we cross the street. You got a nice beard. I'll admit, you have a really, really nice beard, but you're sketchy.
Kyoko listens in on everything. That's nerve-wracking. Ava seems genuine, but is she really into Caleb, or is she just manipulating him?
When I first saw the movie, I was like, I don't know who to trust. I kind of don't trust anybody.
I also dig that it's a chamber film. We have 4 characters in one location, one of whom doesn't even speak, yet it holds our attention. That's pretty impressive. Structure. This film deviates from the classic Hollywood 3-act model in a few different ways. 1. We start off with the inciting incident at like minute 1. Usually that is at minute 15 or 20. We also never follow Caleb home and get a sense of his ordinary world, how he lives, his family. Nah, we don't get any of that. We don't really learn much about him. I don't know who he is. 2. Caleb doesn't really drive the story for most of the movie. He's sort of kind of just along for the ride. It was tough for me to find where the first plot point was because Caleb doesn't really take a course of action leading us into Act 2. He just kind of keeps doing what he's doing, which is pretty much what he's told to do. If you take a movie like Mulan, for example, it's really easy to detect the first plot point. It's when Mulan decides to disguise herself as a man, steal her father's armor, and take his place to join the army. Her decision drives the plot and changes the direction of the story.
Now, this isn't a bad thing. I mean, it's a good thing. The movie works. I'm just pointing out how it's different.
3. Usually the protagonist is presented with a problem that he or she must solve, and his attempt at solving the problem is what drives the plot. In Ex Machina, the protagonist isn't given a problem to solve, he's actually given an opportunity to explore. At first anyway. What keeps us engaged though is the atmosphere and the tension. Yeah, he's got this great opportunity, but we're kind of waiting for the train to go off of the tracks. We know it's coming. Relatability.
Ex Machina has a couple of things working for it in terms of relatability.
1. The boss/employee dynamic between Caleb and Nathan. Nathan is a sketchy boss. We're putting people in windowless rooms and signing non-disclosure agreements. Let's face it, most of us don't trust CEO types as it is. There is already built-in tension in this scenario. Not to mention, Nathan has a god complex. 2.
The main premise of the film is accessible. The whole artificial intelligence becoming autonomous thing, I mean, it's not original, but it's accessible. We've seen Terminator, we've seen The Matrix, all 3 of them. We've seen iRobot, the list goes on and on and on. That premise has been done, and redone. But they've taken this beat to death premise and they put a fresh spin on it. The execution was interesting.
Character arcs. There are no character arcs to speak of, but the true nature of the characters are revealed to us, which kind of sort of satisfies the whole, need for the character arc or character development thing. Nathan is a bro-talking genius who seems like the chillest guy you'd ever meet. But then we learn that he's a glorified womanizer who builds his own sex slaves. Ava's charming and innocent at first, but then we learn that she's a manipulative, cold-blooded icicle with no morality. I don't really get a good sense of Caleb as a character. He's not really well drawn, in my opinion. I mean, I think what happens to him at the end sucks, but other than that, there's not really much to him. He's just kind of a sucker, and I mean, well, there's one born every day.
Nothing personal, Caleb. I think you're a really cool character, and if I saw you walking down 4th Avenue, I would probably get a beer with you. But that will probably never happen, because, I mean, you're probably dead. Oh well. Well, that's all I got for you. If you enjoyed what you saw, please like, go subscribe. You can find me on the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, or the Twitter, baby. You can also check out my sick YouTube channel, Darius Britt, where I vlog about my adventures on the film festival circuit, live casting, vlogs, etc., etc. I do believe that's all I got for you, suckers. D-Bird out. Booyah.